All right, chapter 22. Explosions over the towns of Barisal, Bengal, if they were aerial explosions, were continuing. As to some of those detonations that were heard in May 1874, a writer in Nature 53-197 says that they did seem to come from overhead. A report upon the Barisal guns heard between April 28th, 1888 and March 1st, 1889. See Proc. Ascetic Soch of Bengal, 1889-199. Phenomena at Comrie were continuing. The latest date in Roper's list of earthquakes is April 8th, 1886, but this list goes on only a few years later. See Knowledge, NS 6-145. Shock and a rumbling sound at Comrie, July 12th, 1894. A repetition upon the corresponding date the next year. In the English Mechanic 74-155, David Packer says that upon September 17th, 1901, ribbon-like flashes of lightning, which were not ordinary lightning, were seen in the sky. I think of Birmingham, 1 hour before a shock in Scotland. According to other accounts, the shock was in Comrie and surrounding regions. Smithson, Missel, calls 37 appendix, page 71. According to L. Tennyson, quartermaster's clerk at Fort Klamath, Oregon, at daylight, January 8, 1867, the garrison was startled from sleep by what he supposed to be an earthquake and a sound like thunder. Then came darkness, and the sky was covered with black smoke or clouds, and ashes of brownish color fell as fast as I ever saw it snow. Half an hour later, there was another shock, described as frightful. No one was injured, but the sutler's store was thrown a distance of 90 feet, and the vibrations lasted several minutes. Mr. Tennyson thought that somewhere near Fort Klamath, a volcano had broken loose because in the direction of the Klamath Marsh, a dark column of smoke was seen. I can find record of no such volcanic eruption in a list of quakes in Oregon from 1846 to 1916, published in the Bull-Size American, September 1919. Not one is attributed to volcanic eruptions. Mr. W. D. Smith, compiler of the list, says as to the occurrence at Fort Klamath, if there was an eruption, where was it? He asks whether possibly it could have been in Lesson Peak, but Lesson Peak is in California, and the explosion upon January 8, 1867 was so close to Fort Klamath that almost immediately ashes fell from the sky. The following is of the type of phenomena that might be considered evidence of signaling from some unknown world nearby. La Nature 17-126, that upon June 17, 1881, sounds like cannonading were heard at Gebs, Tunis, and that quaking of the earth was felt at intervals of 32 seconds, lasting about 6 minutes. July 30th, 1883, a somewhat startling experience. Steamship Resolute alone in the Arctic Ocean. 6 reports like gunfire. Nature 53-295. In Nature 30-19, a correspondent writes that upon the 3rd of January, 1869, a policeman in Harleton, Cambridgeshire, heard 6 or 7 reports as if of heavy guns far away. There is no findable record of an earthquake in England upon this date. In the London Times, January 12th, 15th, 16th, 1869, several correspondents write that upon the 9th of January, a loud report had been heard and a shock felt at places near Colchester, Essex, about 30 miles from Harleton. One of the correspondents writes that he had heard the sound but had felt no shock. In the London Standard, January 12th, the Reverend J.F. Bateman of South Lopton, Norfolk, writes as to the occurrence upon the 9th. An extraordinary vibration described variously by many parishioners as being like a gunpowder explosion. A big thunderclap and a little earthquake was noticed here this morning about 11:20. In the Morning Post, January 14th, it is said that at places about 20 miles from Colchester, it was thought that the explosion had occurred upon the 9th, but inasmuch as no explosion had been heard of, the distance was attributed to an earthquake. Night of January 13th, an explosion in the sky at Brighton. In the Standard, January 22nd, a correspondent writes from Swaffham, Norfolk, that at about 8 p.m., January 15th, something of an unknown nature had frightened flocks of sheep, which had burst from their bounds in various places. All these occurrences were in adjoining counties in southeastern England. Something was seen in the sky upon the 13th, and according to the Chudleigh Weekly Express, January 13th, 1869, something was seen in the sky night of the 10th at Weston Mar near Bristol in southwestern England. It was seen between 9 and 10 o'clock and is said to have been an extraordinary meteor. 5 hours later were felt 3 shocks said to have been earthquakes. Upon the night of March 17, 1871, there was a series of events in France and a series in England. A meteor was seen at Tours at 8 p.m. at 10:45. A meteor that left a luminous cloud over Sentis. Another at Paris, 11:15, leaving a mark in the sky of 15 minutes duration. Another at Tours at 11:45 p.m. See Les Mondes 24-190 and Comptes Rendus 72-789. There were earthquakes this night affecting virtually all England north of the Mersey and the Trent, and also southern parts of Scotland. As has often been the case, the phenomena were thought to have been explosions and were then said to have been earthquakes when no terrestrial explosions could be heard of. There were 6 shocks near Manchester between 6 and 7 p.m., and others about 11 p.m., and in Lancaster about 11 p.m., and continuing in places as far apart as Liverpool and Newcastle until 11:30 o'clock. The shocks felt about 11 o'clock correspond in time with the luminous phenomena in the sky of France, but our way of expressing that these so-called earthquakes in England may have been concussions from repeating explosions in the sky is to record that according to the correspondence in the London Times, there were upon the 20th aerial phenomena in the region of Lancaster that had been affected upon the 17th. Sounds that seemed to come from a number of guns at a distance and pale flashes of lightning in the sky. Whether these series of phenomena be relatable to Mars or Martians or not, we note that in 1871 opposition of Mars was upon March 19th, and in 1869 upon February 13th, and in 1867, 2 days after the explosions of Fort Klamath. In our records in this book, similar coincidences can be found up to the year 1879. I have other such records not here published and others that will be here investigated. There is a triangular region in England, 3 points of which appear so often in our data that the region should be specially known to us, and I know it myself as the London Triangle. It is pointed in the north by Worcester and Hereford, in the south by Reading, Berkshire, and in the east by Colchester, Essex. The line between Colchester and Reading runs through London. Upon February 18, 1884, at West Mersey, near Colchester, a loud report was heard. Upon the 22nd of April, 1884, centering around Colchester, occurred the severest earthquake in England in the 19th century. For several columns of description, see the London Times, April 23rd. There is a long list of towns in which there was great damage. In 24 parishes near Colchester, 1,250 buildings were damaged. One of the places that suffered most was West Mersey. There was something in the sky, according to G.P. Yeats. There was a red appearance in the sky over Colchester at the time of the shock of April 22, 1884. The next day, according to a writer in Knowledge 5-336, a stone fell from the sky, breaking glass in his greenhouse in Essex. It was a quartz stone, and unlike anything usually known as meteoric. The indications, according to my reading of the data and my impressions of such repeating occurrences as those at Fort Klamath, are that perhaps an explosion occurred in the sky near Colchester upon February 18, 1884, that a great explosion did occur over Colchester upon the 22nd of April, and that a great volume of debris spread over England in a northwesterly direction, passing over Worcester and Shropshire, and continuing on towards Liverpool, nucleating moisture and falling in blackest of rain. From the Stonyhurst Observatory near Liverpool was reported occurring at 11 a.m. April 26th, the most extraordinary darkness remembered. 40 minutes later fell rain as black as ink, and then black snow and black hail. Black hail fell at Chegley, several miles from Liverpool. 5 hours later, black substance fell at Crowle, near Worcester. Upon the 28th, at Church Stretton and much Wentlock, Shropshire, fell torrents of liquid like ink and water in equal proportions. In the Journal Royal Soc 11-7, it is said that upon the 28th, half a mile from Lilshall, Shropshire, an unknown pink substance was brought down by a storm. Upon the 3rd of May, black substance fell again at Crowle. In Nature 30-216, a correspondent writes that upon June 22, 1884, at Fletching, Sussex, southwest of Colchester, there was an intense darkness, and that rain then brought down flakes of soot in such abundance that it seemed to be snowing black. This was several months after the shock of Colchester, but my datum for thinking that another explosion or disturbance of some kind had occurred in the same local sky is that, as reported by the inmates of one house, a slight shock was felt upon the 24th of June at Colchester, showing that the phenomena were continuing. See Roper's list of earthquakes. Was not the loud report heard upon February 18th probably an explosion in the sky, inasmuch as the sound was great and the quake little? Were not succeeding phenomena, sounds, and concussions, and the fall of debris from explosions in the sky acceptably upon April 22nd, and perhaps continuing until the 24th of June? Then what are the circumstances by which one small part of this Earth's surface could continue in relation with something somewhere else in space? Cymru, Irkutsk, and Birmingham.